From Sacred Heart University in Fairfield, Connecticut, this is The Pulse.
Hello, I'm Miriam Edward.
And I'm Nathan Perez. Previously on The Pulse, documentary filmmakers Keith Maciog and Geer Tang began their exploration on the issue of mental health care in America. Their focus is on an abandoned former state institution in Newtown, Connecticut. Now we bring you the much anticipated conclusion to the story, part 2 of Fairfield Hills, the true story.
When you visit this boarded up former mental asylum, you can see how people's imaginations can run wild. The more I research and read about the history, the more I want to learn. What kind of people lived there? How were they treated? What kind of life did they lead?
People would refer to Newtown, oh yeah, that's where the nut house is.
He got very good care there. That's what I remember. And I think that's the important thing. That's what we need right now in our societies, is a hospital like that.
I do know that the patients had a completely different setup than at most mental, maybe any other mental hospital in the nation, and that was they all had rooms, had windows in them, as did the staff. That was the way the architecture was designed. They were not in the dark. They had natural lighting. There were no bars on the windows, at least initially. The idea was to allow them freedom of movement, independence. I do recall reading that, people would be able to go into common rooms and read, knitting, sort of calm activities. Patients could do the farming. They also assisted in maintenance tasks and nursing services. They helped with that. And I did read that there was a baseball team at Fairfield Hills. The idea of Fairfield Hills was that it was supposed to be cutting edge and the newest treatments. And they had hydroelectric therapy, electric shock therapy, psychosurgery. And then in 1955 is when they came up with the first antipsychotic drug that was effective. And that was commonly known as Thorazine. And that really changed the whole nature of treating the mentally ill in the nation. That's when the concept of deinstitutionalization first began.
Due to the deinstitutionalization movement of the 1960s and 70s, Fairfield Hills Hospital was depopulated and as a result defunded to the point where only 200 patients remained at the time of its closing. Governor John Rowland and the state legislature voted to cease operations at both Fairfield Hills and Norwich State Hospital in 1995. The remaining patients at both hospitals were transferred to the last remaining state-run mental health facility in Middletown. After acquiring the complex from the state in 2004, the town of Newtown has done a great deal to restore and rejuvenate the site, while also clearing space for new construction. However, despite the best intentions of the town, a feeling of uncertainty still hangs over the grounds. It was estimated that over 350,000 inmates in our nation's prison system are mentally ill.
I didn't think that story could get any better than part 1, but that was amazing.
Yes, they did a great job. Allison Wetteraw is up next with an interesting story. Allison?
Sacred Heart University is known for its competitive Division I sports. However, this year, there's a new team getting up on its feet, and it's something you wouldn't expect.
The award-winning team under the Performing Arts Department at Sacred Heart University is making waves in the Irish dance world. Winning almost every competition they entered at their first intercollegiate Irish dance competition back in the fall at Villanova University, it is now the school to beat. The team allows the dancers who have competed in Irish dance their whole life to continue their passion while going to college.
I danced throughout my entire life, Irish dancing. I started when I was 5. And when I was choosing colleges, Sacred Heart stood out because they had an Irish dance program. So then, because I wanted to keep up with it, but at a less competitive, more college level. And it was great because when I came here, it was a lot less stressful than a competitive dance school was that when I had at home. And it was more of like a group that like welcomed you, and like I made so many friends throughout of it, and it was like a lot of fun. But then we also got to compete with colleges, which was like, I didn't know that we did that, but it was a lot more fun.
Doing the Kaylee teams here because I come from a really strong Kaylee school, so it's fun to bring over like what I've learned from my dance school to the girls here.
The team does traditional dances but also mixes it up with dancing to modern music.
When we come back, we will take a look at a local Bridgeport bar that could be your new favorite spot for the weekend.
I started at Sacred Heart University in 1999.
It's been incredible to see the changes we've gone through.
Clearly we were on a growth path for many years, and I think all the signs were leading towards us becoming a school.
Being a school of communications allows us a lot of flexibility.
It makes us more competitive with other schools.
It's like we've really arrived, and I think we got here because of the great students who came before and kind of brought us to this point.
Becoming a school really acknowledges all the amazing work that our students, our staff, and faculty do.
Students get involved immediately here. You don't have to wait until you're a junior. You could come in as a freshman and get involved. We have organizations and clubs.
It's very much about the future. So it really is about what we can do moving forward. That this is going to set us up so that our graduate programs are going to be able to grow and improve, that our undergraduate programs are going to grow and build.
All that's going to help us do what we've been doing all along even better.
Welcome back to The Pulse. Black Rock of downtown Bridgeport features a strip of bars that offer food and live entertainment, but there is one in particular that some may call their favorite. Today, we get a look inside the neighborhood bar where everyone knows your name.
Ask a Black Rock resident one of their favorite places to go. The answer might be an acronym, pronounced Bryac. Located on Fairfield Ave, serving up fresh local harbor seafood and an array of popular beers and wines, Bryac has become a favorite hangout for locals since opening just 4 years ago. It's a place you can expect to see pretty lively at all times of the day, with a regular cast of patrons to whom this place is like a second home. But the part that ties it all together, the key ingredient that makes Bryac Bryac, is the music. Almost every night of the week, the Bridgeport spot is sure to have booked either popular New England area artists or locally talented musicians. As interest in live music has flourished across Connecticut in recent years, Bryac has served as a great hub for music players and listeners, making for a tightly knit but growing center of community. I was able to speak with one important member of the Bryac family.
My name is Joe Mango, and I'm the sound engineer at Bryac. We try to make it feel like home. And when bands have a place that they can go to that feels like home, they play better and they come back and they draw people. And it's a real scene, you know.
You can find Bryacs on Fairfield Avenue in Bridgeport.
This is not your normal school activity. The Charter Oak Cultural Center has brought two groups of people together through the harmony of music. Amanda Saliano was able to bring us the story.
In the city of Hartford, Connecticut, two groups of people you would never expect to work together are connecting through the power of music. A special program called Good Vibrations offers free classes consisting of guitar or rap poetry lessons to middle school boys at the Charter Oak Cultural Center in the heart of the city. The boys are joined by several of the city's police officers who partake in the weekly classes, aiming to mend the barriers between the two groups.
It was a pilot program. We didn't know what was going to come out of it, but it was just to interact with kids that are from the community through the way of arts.
Friendships are being made, and the boys are learning to express their feelings through music.
Music, it helps the brain, and all different things that you can think of, you know, helping your skills with, you know, hand-eye coordination and just being able to, culturally, you know, these kids have never even heard of Led Zeppelin before because the culture they come from, nobody listens to Led Zeppelin, which is, you know, that's how I grew up. I didn't know who Led Zeppelin was either. So just learning things like that is important just to help them be more well-rounded and stuff like that.
The boys who may have viewed cops differently before they started the program are starting to see them in a new way.
I thought they're like pretty like strict and scary and stuff, but they're pretty cool, I guess.
One of the main reasons the program started was because of a tasing that had happened to 26-year-old Matthew Russo in the summer of 2014. Rabbi Donna Berman took this incident to heart and wanted to make a change in the community.
And the whole idea of it was to do actually what the police chief and I did. I'm sure he had lots of assumptions about who I was, and I had lots of assumptions about who he was, and we talked to each other, and we were eyeball to eyeball. And when people are eyeball to eyeball, it's harder to hate, and it's easier to kind of come together, and so that's what we do for the police and the kids. We want them to be together, creating music together, so they get to know each other as human beings. And mostly, the truth is, it's about the police getting to know that these kids are kids. They're not thugs, they're not hoods, they're kids.
Good Vibrations was honored in Washington for being champions of change in September of 2015.
I got an email at first from the White House in my work email. So I thought it was like spam mail at first. So I ignored it. And shortly after, I got a phone call from a supervisor, and he informed me that there was a White House staff member that wanted to speak to me. So I started to giggle a little bit, and I was like, oh, it is a real email. And that's when I learned that I was nominated by the Good Vibrations program through Susan, Mazer and Rabbi Donna Berman.
The program is now running its third session with over 65 students participating so far. Good Vibrations has played a major role in showing the boys that police officers are not the bad guys, and also showing the police officers that the boys aren't just troublemakers.
Myself and Officer Otero were driving down the street, and one of the schools was dismissing, and a couple of the kids shouted us out from the sidewalk, and we stopped and said hi to them, and it was cool.
We have to find more ways to help others on the same planet as sisters and brothers.
The program gears up for their final session, where the boys and the police officers will get to record their rap poetry and guitar mashup together in a recording studio, with the hopes that the two groups can continue to work together and respect each other even when the music stops. Reporting for The Pulse, this is Amanda Saliano in Hartford, Connecticut.
Rabbi Donna Berman tried to expand Good Vibrations throughout the country in Ferguson, Missouri, and Baltimore, Maryland. Unfortunately, the program was not able to get started in those states because there's still too much backlash.
When we come back, we will follow the spiritual journey of a young musician.
Welcome back to The Pulse. We will now take a trip to the Bronx to hear the story of a young woman who isn't afraid to sing what she believes in.
This dream didn't start manifesting until I started to believe in me. Seems like I'm not good enough for this America. I started singing when I was very young with my dad. I grew up listening to La India, Celia, Frankie Ruiz. Salsa, for the most part, was what I grew up listening to. So I had an ear for natural rhythm, and I had an ear for musicianship, for music that really moved people. I love. It seems like we get so much love. When I picked up my guitar, every time I would write a song, it would be a freestyle. So I would turn on my phone, and I still do this. I'll turn on my phone, press record, just like start playing around, messing with some stuff, find a progression that like really embodies my emotion and how I'm feeling at that moment. And once I can describe what I'm feeling through the melody, I'm like, okay, now it's time to just flow on this. And what's natural? What's gonna come out naturally? Whatever comes out, okay, record it, go back and listen to it, write it down, edit it, and just transform it into a song. I'm programmed to have no substance, but my art is so connected to just being myself, because all I've ever done since a young kid was do music and listen to music and sing and play instruments and all of that. So my art is to create and sing and just make people feel comfortable doing the same thing. Last year, I started an artist collective platform specifically for people in the Bronx, but obviously open to anybody who wants to come, called Live from Underground. It started March 17th. We did our first open mic at a yoga studio in the Bronx. We began doing the open mics there every first Friday. We know so many artists, we know so many performers, we know so many painters, we know so many people who just love to create in a space that's, intimate. People are gonna listen and pay attention to you, grow to love your art. I think everybody deserves that chance. We're so privileged here in the States, even though when we really swear we're not. And so just to be able to have the time to sit for 2 hours, and instead of going clubbing or this and like putting money in another borough, it's like, okay, we're here in the Bronx, we're celebrating each other and we're growing as performers, we're getting better, we're just getting better at our craft. After a year of barely making anything and like having to work other jobs and still kind of try to make this art happen, now we're in a position where we're gonna start working with Andrew Friedman Home. We're gonna do the open mic every first Friday there. And the really cool part about this is that now our first Friday open mic is gonna help fund this like Saturday program that happens there for kids. It's free, it's like free food, dance classes, like all of that, drum classes. And I'm working my way into doing what I really want to do, which is work with the youth and work with the kids in the Bronx and give them a little something extra that they might not be getting. And I want to share my music and my writing. We said give back our land, give back our land. And like just my grammar skills, because there's nothing more important than being able to get your message across clearly without vagueness, ambiguity, and you're just all over the place. So I think one of the most important things I want to teach the youth here is really how to speak, because that for me is the ultimate giving back to the community, educating kids, and through them they're going to educate their peers and educate their families, and that's just is a ripple effect. And I want to be heard on a mass scale without having to compromise who I am, and that's just going to be grand, and I'm not going to stop. Decided you'd kill me.
Clearly, music was our big theme of today.
Yes, it certainly was.
Well, that's all the news we have for now. I'm Nathan Perez.
And I'm Miriam Edward. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, this is The Pulse.